definition according to a few authors. We are going to look at the levels of leadership according to John Maxwell. One of his books is called The 5 Levels of Leadership. We are going to see a few key ingredients of what it takes to be a leader. What are the attitudes, the mindset, the skills that makes a leader? And they are: credibility is the first one. Ownership is the second. And thirdly, vulnerability. Maybe vulnerability is a word that you are more used to. Lately, a bunch of people are talking more about vulnerability. Let's go on. I'm just waiting for the camera girl back there to say. Cris, tem botãozinho embaixo do visor. Se você apertar lá atrás.
Assim, embaixo?
Aí, botãozinho de vídeo. Direto. Sorry, guys. Okay, let's take a test of common knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Who is this girl?
I forgot her name, but I know.
No, that's not the right answer.
I forgot her name.
Yeah.
She is the lady who wants to study. Yeah, that's
Yeah, Malala Yousafzai. Who is she?
A young girl who
Humanitarian.
denied school but
Yep.
went anyway.
Yes.
Was attacked.
And in a short, she is the youngest person to ever receive a Nobel Prize.
Yeah, Nobel Prize winner.
Yes, she is the one. Who is this guy?
Terry Fox.
Terry Fox.
Terry Fox.
How do you pronounce that name?
Malala. Terry Fox. Who was he?
He was an athlete, and he was running to raise money for cancer.
Yes.
On
Yeah, on one leg. He lost his leg for cancer,
Yeah.
and then he realized there was not enough money for cancer research, and he intended to cross the country running to raise funds. And unfortunately, he couldn't complete the race, the marathon, but he united Canada coast to coast towards cancer research. Who is this? Nelson Mandela. Who was Nelson Mandela?
President of South Africa.
Yes. Actually, the shortest explanation about Nelson Mandela is that he was a prisoner. He is a guy who left 27 years of prison behind him and became first South African black president. And on top of that, he was the one responsible for breaking the apartheid. I don't expect you to know that, but anyway, who are these guys?
Some random guys.
These guys are the founders of the Greenpeace. Yeah, these guys, they found Greenpeace. And I don't need to ask you, what is Greenpeace, right? It's the biggest ecological organization in the world, right? And who is this guy?
David and Goliath.
David and Goliath.
David and Goliath. We will be speaking about him tonight. So, who is this small guy there? David. And who is David?
He was a shepherd boy.
Shepherd boy.
Shepherd and the second king.
A shepherd boy that became a king as Sarah said, the second Israel's king, right?
Yeah.
And what we say about David is that David was a person after God's heart,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, and he was the youngest of, I think, 8 children, shepherd, and became a king. So we are going to look at some of his features, his deeds tonight. So what is a leader? Why are you all here? Why does leader and leadership attract you?
Because we can use this for try to influence people.
Yes,
or what you believe or things like that.
Uh-huh. So you are saying that a leader is somehow an influencer. Okay. But why do you want to influence people?
Well, I think we all do. I think we are all leaders in one way, shape, or form. Whether you're a parent or whether you're in the workplace helping somebody, you're giving leadership. Like in one way, shape, or form, probably in your lifetime, you're going to be a leader.
Yes, that's right. And it's very sad that we don't realize that soon enough in our lives. That some way or another, all of us, each one of us, are a leader. That can be with small children, can be with our wives, our relatives, our colleagues, our students. The sooner we realize that we are leaders, that somebody is looking up to us, and we are able to influence them, to shape them somehow, the sooner we realize that, the most efficient our leadership will be. If we realize that and we intend to be intentional, a good leader. Okay, so what is a leader? A leader is somebody who influences others to motivate motivate people and to get people moving, get the action going. Now, what is the difference between a leader and a person, a normal person? What is the difference between a leader and, let's say, a follower? What makes them different?
They look for a solution to a problem.
They look for a solution to problem.
They are trustful in some matter.
They are trustful.
In some matter of their.
Uh-huh.
They will take initiative.
They'll take initiative. They will be in the front line. They will be the first ones. They don't wait on the back of the pack to see things resolved, to see things happen. So leaders are the ones who take the first action. And what is leadership then? So leadership is the action of being in the front, of being the first, or taking action, not waiting for anybody, right? So the definition of leadership, according to the website, The Balanced Small Business, leadership is the art of motivating a group of people. So let's say Justin is an artist because he's the leader of this group, right? So according to the small business website, leadership is the art of motivating a group of people. Kevin Cruz, an author, he says, leadership is a process of social influence which maximize the efforts of determined group. So he thinks that leadership is a process. And thinking of process is something dynamic. It's not something static. It's always in the action, in movement. And here comes the shortest and my favorite definition. According to John Maxwell, leadership is simply influence. It's simple as that. Leadership is influence. And then when we start talking about leadership, people immediately project themselves in executive board meetings, sitting around a big table with executives and giving beautiful speeches. But if leadership is it's influence, now I can think that, I can be a leader of my friends. I can influence them. I can be a leader in my family. I can influence my wife. I can influence my kids. I can be a leader if I'm aware. If I understand leadership as influence. So, those guys back there, Malala Yousafzai, Nelson Mandela, Terry Fox, do you think they woke up one day and said, hey, I want to change the world? No. Malala, her story is very interesting because she was a girl in a small village, I think in Afghanistan. And she wanted to learn. She wanted to know the world, know what is to know out there. And she couldn't go to school. She got the support from her family. But it was only her family against the whole village. So she stood up for herself and started saying, no, it's wrong, I want to go to school. To the point that she got shot in her head in a bus because she wanted to go to school. And after that, she recovered from the shot and she started campaigning. That's wrong. Girls must have the right. She started on her own village. Then she brought her campaign to the village neighbor village. And soon enough, she was receiving the Nobel Prize. Nelson Mandela, I read a book on his life, his biography. He was a small farm boy. He was raised to become a counselor, not even a chief. He was groomed to be a counselor. And then he started looking around and seeing that black people in their own land were discriminated. So he went to school to acquire knowledge, acquire skills. And while he was in school, he realized he could do something. He could start in his own school, his own college, to say, why are we separating the black students from the white? Why cannot we be together? Why cannot eat together? And then after a lot of struggle in the book, it's called their fight. It's called The Struggle. After a while, he was sent to prison. And in prison, he organized the prisoners. He stopped gang fighting. He stopped bribes, and a lot of things, just because he wanted to do what was right. And now we know him as the first black president of South Africa. He never dreamed of becoming the president. Never. What all those guys have in common? The Greenpeace founders, they were concerned only about preserving the planet. They didn't imagine they would have a global impact in the whole planet and become famous. They just wanted to protect the life, the green in the planet. And they created, their organization became a global organization.
You know what comes to mind when I hear you talking? It's each of these people had a passion. They had a passion for what they were believing in.
Yes, yes. So, these guys, they didn't settle for their circumstances. And when I wrote that, I was thinking exactly about David. And we're gonna talk about David in a minute. They influenced those around them. They started with their friends. They started with their peers. They didn't start a global campaign at first. They started with those around them. They changed the situations around them. They didn't look to solve halfway planet, a planet away problems. They started solving their own. They led those around them. They didn't start sending emails to another country saying, hey, follow me. No, they started with their friends. They started in their business. And then all of a sudden, we have a president, we have a Nobel Prize, we have a global organization existing. All that it's needed, let me go back. I see everybody's writing. All that's needed is that you take action. And I'll jump the gun here now. All that is needed is ownership. But I'm gonna talk in detail a few slides later. It's you don't leave, you don't tertiarize, you don't hand out influence to others and expect them to do something. You do yourself. You get into action yourself. Okay, can we go ahead? John Maxwell wrote a book called The 5 Levels of Leadership. And I would say every one of you should read that. It's very educating about leadership. So let's go. He says that the first level is the position level, or the rights. What that means is the right, is the level where you have a title, you receive a position, and then people follow you because they have to. Tonight, I can give you a great example of positional leadership. Paul, we're gonna follow him tonight because he has the keys. When he says it's time to go, guys, you get out, otherwise you'll be locked here. He has the position, he has the key, he has the right to say it's time to go home. That's the first level, is when you have a title. It's when you are called teacher, or professor, or the accountant, or the doorkeeper. You have a title. In that moment, you have a position of authority. And people have to need to listen to you because it's your right. It's the first level, it's the basic one. Then comes the permission level. People follow you because they want to. Because in that level, now they know who you are, they know you have credibility to be there, and you started building relationship with them. Now is when Paul comes here, he arrives earlier, opens the door, and stays here, receiving every one of us, and say, hey, welcome. What's your name? How was your day? Is the family okay? Is everything okay? He starts building a relationship with us. Now, when he says, hey guys, it's 9 p.m., I think we should go, we trust him that that's a good judgment, and we will leave. Not because he's saying so, but because we have a relationship. We don't want to give him a hard time. And we don't want him to give us a hard time as well. Then comes the production level, is when you now know your team, you know your people, they know you, you have a relationship with them, everything comes fall into place, you get a kind of harmony in your workplace. Now everybody wants to work in the same pace, towards the same goal, to see things happen, to see results. This level is when the whole organization starts paying attention to you, because you are the one who has a well-oiled team that is working, is producing, is delivering results. Then the fourth level, here is when you start working hard, is the people development level. Now you have a position, you have authority, you have people's permission to lead them because of your relationship with them. Your team is working and delivering. You have results to speak for themselves. Now is the time when you start developing other leaders. You start identifying who are the potential leaders in your team, and you start working with them. You start walking with them and training them. This is the fourth level. And here people follow you not because of what you have done for you follow you because of what you have done for them personally. Because now we are spending time one-on-one. Now I'm sitting with you after work to talk with you about your challenges, your goals, how we're gonna overcome them, and so. And then the fifth level is the pinnacle, is the respect level. Is when you have proved to the whole organization, proved to your team that you are a good leader. And your influence goes beyond your own team, your own department, reaches out to the whole company, the whole organization, and beyond that. Now you become recognized on the whole industry, in the whole region. That is when you harvest the hard work fruits of the previous levels. I recommend you to read the book. There are lots of substance on the book that I'm just skipping here. I'm just citing the levels. There are lots of good things to do on this level, things to avoid, how to accomplish the goals in each level. So I can't spend time on the book here. Okay? Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so we saw the definition, we saw the levels. Now, we are going to take a look on the three elements of what it takes to develop a leadership. What are the skills and the attitudes we need? The first one is credibility. People won't follow you if they don't trust you, if they don't know you. If you are not credible, if you are not trustworthy, people won't follow you. If Justin wasn't a credible leader, and when he told, guys, this building is small, is not taking us anymore here, we need to make a campaign, do a campaign, and move on to a bigger building. If you said, I don't trust Justin, he is hiding something, I don't believe him. No, it's not true that we need a bigger building. You wouldn't follow him. Credibility is the first step to establish a leadership. Then comes the ownership. Ownership is when you own everything. You own everything. I bet you when Justin said in his mind, we need a bigger building, he didn't think, oh, but somebody else will take the troubles to raise funds. No, he said, leave it to me, and I'll lead the people to a fundraising. We're gonna do it together. Ownership is something that you can't be a good leader without it. I'm still gonna speak a little bit more about it. And finally, vulnerability. Vulnerability in our day and age is something very demanded because we live in a society that most of the thing is just for show, is artificial, is not honest. And vulnerability is when you say, look, this is me. I am imperfect. I make mistakes. I am weak in this area. I need help here. This is me. Will you accept me like I am? Instead of putting masks. I've met some leaders during my professional life where they believed that the leader cannot make mistakes. And believing that, they would fake that they knew something. They would fake that they had done in the past. They would fake that they weren't stressed. They would fake everything. They weren't honest and transparent with their teams because they believed that the leader is somehow a perfect person. And that is not true. Credibility. According to Oxford Dictionary, credibility is the quality that something or somebody has that makes people believe or trust them. That is credibility. Credibility is when you go to a mechanic and you leave your car there. You trust that the mechanic is gonna fix and charge you the right and just price. Otherwise, you wouldn't stop there. You would go to the next one. Credibility is when you ask your neighbor, hey, have you hired that plumber? Was that plumber that made your sink? And he says, yeah, I didn't like his job. You won't call him because he's not credible for you and for your neighbor. So credibility is something very important. Let's take a look at King David. First and foremost, David didn't settle. In 1 Samuel chapter 17, we read on verse 1. Now the Philistines gathered their force for war and assembled at Succoth in Judah. That's the first what we read in Samuel, that the Philistines, they gathered together for war. They weren't there to party. They weren't there to improve their relationship with the Israelites. They went there for war. Then on verse 4, we see a champion named Goliath, who was from Gath, came out of the Philistine camp. His height was 3 meters. Then on verse 8, we read, Goliath stood and shouted to the ranks of Israel, "Why do you come out and line up for battle? Am I not a Philistine? And are you not the servants of Saul? Choose a man and have him come down to me." And then it goes on saying, we're going to fight, and whoever wins, his army wins. On verse 16, we read, for 40 days the Philistines came forward every morning and evening and took his stands. 40 days, imagine, can you imagine that for 40 days a giant shouting insults on you? Nobody in Saul's troop took a stand and say, "Hey, you, shut up. You won't gonna insult our country, our God anymore." Nobody for 40 days. Then the small David, the shepherd, the around 17 years old shepherd, went to visit his brothers. And he arrives there, and one morning he's there and he's hearing this guy shouting insults. And he asks, "Who is this guy? Who is this guy?" And then they say, "Oh, this is Goliath. He is a Philistine." And he said, "Why is he shouting that?" "Oh, this is because," and they explained to him all the dynamic of the war. On verse 26, we read, David asked the man standing near him, "What will be done for the man who kills the Philistine and removes the disgrace from Israel? Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?" Who is this guy? A teenage boy comes into a battle camp, and everybody was comfortable. 40 days hearing that guy insulting. The Israel's army got comfortable. For the morning and evening, Goliath would come out and shout, "Aren't you the Saul's servant? I am a Philistine. Send somebody here. Let's fight." It took a boy, a 17 years old boy, shepherd, and not a soldier, a shepherd, to say, "Who is this guy? Who is this uncircumcised guy shouting BS to the Israelites?"
That moment is a moment for a leader, the king.
Exactly. A leader appears in those moments because they don't settle. They don't grow comfortable in a difficult situation. if Justin said, you know what, 70, it's a good number. We can hold 70 here in this room. We don't need to grow. We can stay here. That is not a situation for a leader. A leader appears when the things are ugly, when the situation is critical. I would talk with Justin at least once a month when I left, and he would say, we keep growing, we keep growing. There is no more room to put people inside there. To the point that in one of the celebrations you did in the parking lot, right?
Yeah.
Okay, David. So David goes there and he sees that situation and he said, and there was a promise that whoever kills the Goliath would be given the king's daughter to marry and would be famous, would be made famous by the king. David said, who is this guy that will define the armies of the living God? He wasn't concerned, he wasn't looking for the girl. He was worried about defending the honor of Israel. He goes there and he said, I cannot believe I'm listening, I'm hearing this guy insulting God. And he doesn't say, you know what, it's none of my business. I'm leaving, I have sheep to tend. Okay? Forget that I was here. No, he didn't do that. Was the opposite. He volunteered himself to fight with the giant. And you can read there, 1 Samuel 17. He comes to Saul, and Saul says, listen, David, I appreciate that you are volunteering, but you are not a soldier, you are a shepherd. Please go home. Forget it. Go home. And he says, oh, you are doubting me? Are you nuts? I have killed a lion. I have killed a bear with my bare hands. This giant is nothing, because God has anointed me when I needed to fight the lion. He will do the same now. And he proved to Saul that he was qualified to fight with the giant. And they finally let him do. And you know the rest of the story. First step for credibility is know yourself. Know yourself. There are lots of leaders or people who wants the spot of a leader. And once they are there, they say, I didn't know it would be hard like it's been. First of all, we need to know ourselves. Who am I? Do you know what is your profile? What is your personality? Do you know if you are good with people? If you are good working with machines by yourself? Do you know if you are a perfectionist and you like things in the right place? Do you know if you are a person who needs calm and a silent place to work? Because this is just 4 types of different people. I am a people person. I like to work with people. Don't put me on a machine. I won't be as good as with people. So if I look for a job and I want to be a leader, I need to be with people. I know that about myself. How about yourself? How do you deal with pressure? With pressure, do you sit and cry? Or you tough it up? Or you ignore? You don't care? How do you deal with pressure? When comes to pressure times, what you gonna do? How do you deal with frustration? We work in a team, and we can't control other people. You can't control your kids' reaction. You can't control your wife's expectations. How do you deal with frustration? Do you shut off? You don't talk anymore? You ignore her? When we aim for a leadership position, these are things that when we don't know ourselves, this can be our first barrier, our first stone to stumble upon it. Because if you don't know how you're going to react on all those situations, you are going to defeat yourself. You don't need a boss to do that. It's you. For example, I'll give you one example. Under stress, will you become an angry and grumpy person and push everybody away from you? Or do you know how to take some time, breathe, do a stretch outside the office, calm down, and then come back to the situation? Conflict. We cannot avoid conflict. Never. Sometimes with our wives, everybody here is married. We wake up in the morning and think this will be a good day. It's a special day, it's nice, and we end up fighting. Because we can't control the other. We can control only ourselves. But I don't know how I react when under stress. I don't know how do I react with frustration. I guess I can safely say when we are getting ready to leave the house and the wife is just choosing the dress. After half an hour, how do you deal with that? So, to be credible, to be trustworthy, the first step is to know yourself. The second one is still under the know yourself umbrella. What are your values? Your ethical values. If somebody comes to you with a bribe, how do you react? You say yes right away? You stop to think? Or you say no, I don't do bribes, sorry. Relational, what are your values? Do you like the employees? You like your kids who treat you well? And you dislike the ones who talk behind your back? How do you deal with that? What is your values? Have you ever stopped to think about? When I was doing this slide, when I was doing this, it's even hard to think values. What do you mean by values? Honesty, sincerity, hard work, friendship, values. What are yours? All of us here, we had bosses in our lives. And then you become aware that, oh, the boss likes that person, but doesn't like that other person. Is this a good leader? A leader who makes differentiation among the employees? Who creates parties on the workplace? That is an internal value. First of all, if you are willing to accept people who treat you well to get your favor, to be in your grace, you are sending a message to the others. If you want my grace, treat me well. Success. How do you deal with success? I will tell, I'll say something about Brazil. Brazil, the first thing that happens when somebody gets rich, especially a business person, the first thing that happens is that they look for a mistress. It's a common story. It's a much. That repeats itself time and time again. What is your relationship with success? Then you start ignoring your poor relatives. Now you go play golf with the rich people, you ignore your friends that are poor. Now you start avoiding the annoying employee because you were promoted. Knowing ourselves is a difficult task because it has so many sides for us to do evaluation of ourselves. Integrity. John Maxwell says, integrity isn't what we do so much as who we are. And who we are, in turn, determines what we do. Again, integrity is linked, is connected, is rooted in your values. If you value family, you're gonna handle the family issues with your team, with your people better than somebody who doesn't. Time and time again, we read stories on the papers of business people, of leaders who mishandle their position, their power. The latest one is the Trudeau family with the WE organization. And the more they dig, the stickier it gets, right? Integrity. When I came to this country 6 years ago, Trudeau wasn't the first minister, the premier, prime minister. Where do we say first minister? No, okay. You see, I'm still learning English. So he went from the son of a former prime minister to a prime minister himself. And now he's so dirty with his case, his corruption case, that his leadership is questionable. Now we question if he is the right person to be there, right? Integrity is something that we need to fight with all our force, our strength, to keep untouched. Oxford Dictionary says, integrity is the state of being whole and not divided. When I say something here to Susan, and then I cross the street and tell Chris, what I said to Susan is not exactly truth. I'm being divided. I'm not being whole. The same as I am with Susan here, I'll be with Chris over there. David, when we read David's story, he had twice the opportunity to kill him. And he was always running from Saul because Saul was openly chasing him to kill him. And both opportunities, David says, who am I to stretch my hand to do harm to the king? He knew the king was his enemy. It was open and clear for everybody. And even though he had the opportunity to kill him, he would say, I'm not the one. I don't have God's position to take anybody's life. He was, how do we say that? Integrity.
He was
Had
whole.
integrity.
You have integrity.
He had
Integrity. Okay, he had integrity.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had integrity. He said, if Saul dies, won't be by my hand, for my hand. Credibility also is built upon results. I can tell you, I am able to do such and such things and never show you. Who would believe me after a while saying, oh, I can do that. I can speak Chinese. I can speak Chinese. Right? And I never show you, I never deliver anything in Chinese. After a while, who would still believe me? Nobody. Right? Results. Result is the combination that comes from knowledge plus execution. It's not suffice to say, I know how to do. It's necessary to go and do it and deliver it. Sarah, am I wrong? You work with the kids, right? So when you offered to work with the kids, you said, oh, I'm able to work with the kids. And then you went home and never touched them?
No.
No, you have to go and work with them, right? And I can tell you, Justin and Angie couldn't be prouder of you. They say you do a great job. So, results. Next year, if Sarah decides that she will keep working with the kids, I bet you everybody will just hand them over. Because she had delivered results. Results come from hands-on. It's not just speech, it's hands-on. And service. Maxwell says, the prevalent attitude of a good leader is one of serving others and bringing out the best in the people they work with. Is working alone, shoulder by shoulder. It's not just saying, guys, we need to clean this room after. And then when we finish, I jump in my car and go home. Everybody say, wow, that was fast. That was the fastest leader I've seen. Running away. Again, on David's life, on chapter 18, verse 5, we read, wherever mission Saul sent him on, David was so successful that Saul gave him a high rank in the army. A boy, now let's say 19, 20 years old boy, was given a general rank in the army. This pleased all the troops and Saul's officers as well. Everybody, and if you read the whole population was happy because David now was a general in Israel's army. Every mission, and you're gonna read there and see that Saul, every time David succeeded, he would send him in a harder and more difficult mission, hoping that he would get killed. And every time he did well. Results. Results speaks louder than just words. Let's talk about vulnerability. This author, Brené Brown, she is a social worker, and she wrote this book, Daring Greatly. In this book, she introduces two concepts. The first one is the concept of scarcity. Scarcity, she defines as always not being enough. She says our society is the society of scarcity. I am not smart enough. I am not rich enough. I am not skilled enough. I am not fit enough. We are never enough. Our society out there is looking for perfection. If I before starting, I was talking to Vijay, and he registered for a 10K race, 10 kilometers race. And then somebody would turn and say, 10? Only 10? You should run a marathon, a 40. Why? Because it's not enough. Our society is always demanding that we do better. We be perfect. So this is scarcity. And as a result of scarcity is that we feel smaller and smaller and smaller. We always feel that we are not enough. And we retreat from life. Not only from society, we retreat from life. And then she introduces the concept of vulnerability. And vulnerability is showing up. She speaks of Ted Roosevelt speech where he says, where he talks about the man in the arena. He was thinking in the ancient Rome when the gladiators would come to the arena and fight to death. And in his speech, he says, if you are not in the arena with me, side by side, fighting, bleeding, if you are sitting in the seats, applauding and wooing, don't speak to me. Vulnerability is then the attitude of saying, this is me. I am imperfect. I snore. I don't do well math. I am not so good cook, and so on. This is me. Will you be my friend? Do you accept me? I am imperfect. And then we start shaving, and it's like the onion. We start taking our layers of our masks and showing who we are, and telling, if you think I am enough, this is me. If I have enough, this is me. Will you accept me? Credibility has to do with vulnerability. Because if you pretend to be somebody that you aren't, sooner or later, people will realize that. They will figure you out. And then if you said, I do, but you don't, your perfection mask will drop. So Brené Brown says that we all should stop wearing masks. We should stop pretending that we are perfect. And a leader, most of all, when we stand in front of a group, when we stand in front of our families, we must be able to say, I need help. I don't know everything. I'm not able to do everything. I need help. I worked for a guy that he one day said, I must know everything and I must not make mistakes. And I told him, look, this doesn't exist. You are trying to be somebody that you will never be. Somebody perfect. A leader is someone who must be the first to say, I am not perfect. I need help. I need work. Will you work on me? Will you spend time on me? I consider that to be credible, to be trustworthy, you must tell, look, I am weak on this area. Will you help me? I can't do it all by myself. Let me tell you, personally, in my professional life, I changed career in the last 2 years. I joined a company where I didn't know anything. They gave me a job. They were crazy enough to give me the job. I didn't know the field. The more I tried, the longer I tried to pretend that I could do without saying I need help, the harder it was. When I finally gave up on trying to figure out by myself, on my own, and said, look, I don't understand this thing. Can you explain to me? Then everybody was happy. They were happy. I was happy because I was not sustaining the pressure on my back. The pressure to be perfect. I can tell you on my personal life, being vulnerable was the best thing I did. It works. I guarantee you. Ownership. There is this book called Extreme Ownership. It was written by an ex-Navy SEAL commander. For those who had did the military, it will be a fun and enjoyable reading. For those who didn't, it will be nice, very good. So you don't need to be in the army, you don't need to be in the Navy to read the book. But if you were, it will be a plus. What does he mean by ownership? He was a commander. He had a group of soldiers under his belt. And he needed to be precise on the Iraq war. And he learned a few lessons. And he wrote this book. Ownership, extreme ownership. By extreme ownership, he means you as a leader must own everything that is to be on your range of reach. If it's good, it's yours. If it's bad, it's also yours. You have to own that. I'm not a parent, but apparently I know that raising kids is a difficult task, right? Parents would agree with me.
No.
And what is easier is to say no and go explain to your kid that why is know why he can't eat 2 kilos of peanut butter at once, or you give him the damn peanut butter pot and say, go eat it. I bet you'll be more peaceful if you give him the peanut butter, right? He will entertain himself for 2 hours. And you'll be at peace. Did you do the right thing?
No.
Did you educate him? No. And that is ownership. That is owning the bad, the ugly. It's not saying, oh, that employee, it's a headache. It's my nightmare. I don't want to even talk to him. That is bad leadership. Extreme ownership is when you take in your own hands everything and say, I am the owner of this thing. I am the parent. I am the boss. I am the one who will make this happen. You think about every detail that is to be, and you be in charge of that detail. You don't hand it over for somebody else. You don't leave it for somebody else to worry at night about that detail. It's yours. You're gonna take that in your hand and you're gonna make it. It's not your boss's fault that you didn't get the promotion. It's not your kid's fault that he is getting bad grades. It's not your wife's fault that she didn't change the oil of the car. You stop handing guilty over other people. You take in your hands and you lead. You make it happen. If your kid is having bad grades, you don't think, my wife will take care of it. The teacher will take care of it. I'm going to close my eyes and he will get better. He will realize he needs good grades. No, you say, it's my kid, it's my investment, it's his happiness I am responsible for. So you're going to spend hours and hours and hours doing homework, studying with him. Ownership. You own that thing. Finance, personal finance. It's not your boss's fault that you don't have money for vacation. It's yours. Take ownership of your vacation and work towards it. Take ownership of your bank account and watch it. Stop handing responsibility to others. Take on your hands all your and full responsibility. There is no leader who hands over responsibility to others. You'll be a bad leader if you do that. You have to own the good and the bad. Yes?
What's your advice if you want to take ownership for something, like a project or some work, and someone with more authority above you says that do your job, you do not have authority over it, or should you still try to push, like something that you think is better, or conform, okay, I respect authority, I don't believe that this is the way that we need to do because I think I can do better, but I'll just do the way that I'm told to do.
I'll sit on the passenger seat and I'll close my eyes and let's see what happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
My personal advice is you find out who authority is, who is the authority for that project. and you're gonna work with them. You're gonna come closer and say, hey, I have some ideas. How about we approach this way? How about we look for this solution with the boss? In that book, the author will say, when you have a boss that it's a jerk here, instead of trying to go around him, go with him, help him. When you help him, you help you. Your time will come. Somebody will notice that you didn't jump the bridge there. You helped him, you developed him. And that is called developing up. So you're gonna work with your boss and make him look good. So my personal advice would be, look for who authorities is that project and work with them instead of trying to avoid them or jump around them and so. Yeah. If you are interested, that book will help you even more with this situation. He describes this right situation there. Ownership, you are entirely responsible. It all comes down to you. Stop blaming others. Stop making excuses. You know, guys, when I most lost weight, when I said it's up to me. It's not up to Chris to cook better. It's up to me. It's up to me. And I started doing that. I started working at 4 a.m. to run. And that was when I boosted my weight loss. It's up to me. Nobody else. It's not my doctor. It's not my gym manager. It's up to me. If I don't put my effort, nobody else will. In order to be a leader, you have to own the good and the bad. Own it. What more does it take to develop leadership? Leadership demands a lot of work and sacrifices. Leadership will make you work long hours. Will make you spend time outside work, outside your relaxing time, on your leisure time. Worry about how can I do better? How can I help my team? How can I assist them to do better? In another presentation, in another slide, I had something about leading people. Gives you work, it's hard work, because you don't get only the nicest people in your team. You don't get only the well-dressed people in your team. You don't get all the helpful people in your team. And you know what? The most difficult ones is the ones who need you more. Henry Ford used to say, what the heck, I can get just the pair of hands. Why does it come the full body? He wanted just the hands to work on his cars. But unfortunately, people come whole and come whole with their mental health issues, come whole with their addictions issues, come whole with their family issues. And you must be there for them. So leadership demands a lot of work, a lot of sacrifice. It will demand that after work you spend some hours talking to that employee that is going through a divorce or is going through a grieving for his dog. He lived He and his dog for 7 years. And now his dog is gone. And you have to go there and offer him your shoulder, your ear. Are you going to be paid for those hours? No, you won't. But you're gonna win him over as a person who cares, as his leader who cares.
Mhm.
He's gonna follow you because now he wants to, because you built relationship. Check your ego. Most of us, if not all of us, think that the leadership position, the spot of the leader, is the nicest spot to be. And when I'm there, it's a pity that we don't have a stage here. When I'm there, then I'll shine and everybody will applaud me. No, you are mistaken. I'm sorry. Check your ego, because you are not in the leadership position to be applauded. You are there to serve the others. You are there to practice the golden rule. And John Maxwell, he enlisted all religions in the world, all, has some kind of golden rule. And I'm gonna cite just our golden rule, the Christian golden rule. Do to others what you want them to do to you. It's not a passive situation. It's not don't do to others what you don't want to be done to you. No. You're gonna do to others is active action. Do to others what you want them to do to you. Leadership position is the servant position. So ego doesn't have a place in leadership spot. You have to check your ego at the door. You have to check your ego because sometimes, and hopefully you get that all the time, somebody will know more than what you know. Somebody will be smarter than you. Lucky if you have those people in your team. So you have to be humble to say, Mike, I didn't know that. Wow, I learned something today. Check your ego. David, although he was called the friend of God, the man according to God's heart, he was never entitled. He never felt entitled. We read on 2 Samuel chapter 7, verse 18. The King David went in and sat before the Lord, and he said, Who am I, sovereign Lord? And what is my family that you have brought me this far? Humility, humbleness is something very important, especially if you are leading a group of people. You can never assume that you are the one, you are the anointed, you are the elected, and all the wisdom, all the power, all the virtue is on you. Thank you. Usually we meet people who say, I come from poor family, a poor family. I didn't have chance in life. I didn't study, so this is why my life is miserable and poor of me. We put blame out of us. We put blame in our parents. We put blame in our economical situation. And this way we transfer our responsibility to change who we are or change our situation to others. I blame the government. Oh, the job opportunities is bad because of the economy, and the economy is bad because of the government. I don't look at myself and say, how can I improve my employability? How can I improve my skills? And someone can say, Clover, but I don't have money to go to a school and learn a trade. I don't have money to go to school and learn how to create websites. And that is a fair excuse. But this is it, an excuse, nothing more. You can go to organizations, non-profit organizations, they will have some kind of training. You can go to YouTube. Nowadays, you can learn almost everything on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not really a matter of lack of opportunity or a matter of a lack of means to improve. It's a matter of who I am putting the responsibility of. If I say it's up to me to change my life, then I'll have a different attitude. If I say, oh, it's the government, I cannot touch the government. I cannot work with the government. So I cannot change. Ownership is when we look at ourselves and say, hey, it's up to me to change this or change that. It's up to me to change my marriage. Oh, I don't know what to do. Find a counselor. I don't know what to do. Talk to a friend. But just don't sit there waiting that the situation will change itself. Ownership, it's
Hi, this is Christine Kane, and today's reading is from the book of Matthew, chapter 6, verse 34.
It's up to us to sit on the pilot seat and take ownership of our lives and our situations, our circumstances. When we do that, we see results. When we do that, we see things improving and changing. Maybe it's not on the pace, on the rhythm we imagine, but we see improvement. When I got this new job, I was so excited because I thought I will do as I want, not as my boss wants. And then I discovered that no, I am there to do what my boss wants. Mm-hmm. And then I discovered that I wasn't as qualified as I thought to do what my boss wants. And I have a mentor. And I talked to her and said, I don't see things changing. I don't see that they listen to me. And she said, Clover, credibility is the first step. Is the first step. You have to build trust. And how do I build trust? With results. Mm-hmm. With being there, punctual, with showing up, with saying, I don't know, can you help me? And then gradually, I was building that first block of credibility to the point where my boss, she says that I'm not allowed to quit the company. Mm-hmm. She will not work in that company if I'm not there. You cannot imagine how proud I was when I heard that. Because I was in shock when I realized that I couldn't do that job. I was in shock that I'm gonna fail And then, when I talked to my mentor and she said, Wilbur, take your time and build credibility. That was the first step. And when I went to that step, then came the others. And luckily, or joyfully, or blissfully, I read all these books and I learned these things. I only am here and I offer Justin to speak because I've been living all these things. I've been living all these things. And at least if you don't want to believe me on my professional life, on all my presentation, you say this is BS, you can believe me in one thing. I was round when I left Winnipeg. you all know that, right? I was rolling. And then I decided when I left Winnipeg that I would get in shape at some point. And here I am. I'm not skinny, but I'm not round anymore. Right?